My name is Reina Wiel and I work for the Royal Commission on the Ancient and Historical Monuments of Wales. And we are one of the 3 federated partners that lead on People's Collection Wales. But just to give you a little bit of background before I go into kind of the details of People's Collection, the Royal Commission is the investigating body and national archive for the historic environment of Wales. And for those of you who might not know, Wales is a country that is part of the United Kingdom, along with England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. The Royal Commission was established in 1908 by King Edward VII, based on the far-sighted recognition that Wales needed a record of its historic buildings and archaeology to sit alongside the nation's library, arts and museum collections. Our archive is called the National Monuments Record of Wales, and that holds around 2 million photographic images, over 45,000 archive maps, around 50,000 drawings, and much, much more. And I've already been talking with Alison whether we might be able to come back next year and do a session just on our own archive materials. But for the purpose of today, just only to say very briefly that our archive can be consulted by making an inquiry to our library and inquiry service or through our online database Covlane. And you can use Covlane to search for any site of interest, check our catalogued collections and view images from across Wales. But I know we're not here today to talk about the Royal Commission, but I hope this will give you a little bit of context as to how the Memory Archive has come into being. So how did we get started? So in 2016, the Royal Commission was approached by a hospital in Wales, or to be precise, their mental health services for older people department. And they requested a donation of photos, pictures, to make their male assessment ward less clinical and more dementia friendly. And they particularly asked for pictures or items relating to the history and culture of the local area to use as memory joggers and for reminiscence material. So in that particular instance, we waived the cost and license fee for a number of our high resolution digital images, but it got us thinking about whether other professionals working with people living with dementia kind of knew about our resources and how they might be used. And that was how the idea for an event aimed at healthcare professionals and those working with or caring for people living with dementia came about. So in November 2017, the Royal Commission organised a day-long event aimed at these healthcare professionals and carers, and we explored how archives, and particularly digital archives, can be used as a source of material to stimulate reminiscence and memory. And what became clear from our event was that healthcare professionals are actually really eager to engage with digital heritage. We had around 70 people from across Wales attend the event with us in Aberystwyth. But a key message we received was that kind of despite this willingness, healthcare professionals are generally time poor and do not have the resources to spend hours browsing through different archives, websites or databases for suitable material. So as an organisation on our own, we didn't really have the means at the Royal Commission to do much with this feedback, but this is where the People's Collection Wales programme came in. And you'll be able to learn much more about People's Collection Wales in my colleague Berian's presentation for the Genealogy Centre on the 16th of January, little plug. So I'll only kind of keep it very short here. But People's Collection Wales was established in 2010. It's funded by the Welsh Government, and it's a national digital collection that captures, protects and celebrates the diverse histories of Wales and its people. And the 3 kind of leading partner organisations are National Museum Wales, the National Library of Wales and the Royal Commission, where I work. So as one of the 3 main partners of People's Collection Wales, we contributed a report in 2019 on how people living with dementia could benefit from engagement with digital heritage. And the outcome of that report was, one, the recognition that actually a lot of fantastic work was being done in the UK in the museums, archives and libraries sector around improving well-being for people living with dementia. But this work was so dispersed for the healthcare sector to properly engage with it, and instead they had turned to very expensive commercial providers. And the second outcome of the report was that we concluded that People's Collection Wales was incredibly well placed as a free national digital platform to start curating and promoting content for the purpose of reminiscence. And so the Memory Archive was born. However, before I go into how the Memory Archive, what it looks like, what you can do with it, I'd like to take a very small step back here and talk just a little bit about dementia and reminiscence. So dementia is not an inevitable part of aging and is not a disease in its own right. It's instead kind of an umbrella term. And dementia is caused by diseases damaging the brain. This makes it harder for people to remember things well, and they can have difficulties with movement, problem solving, or communication. So in terms of numbers, as you can see on the slide, an estimated 6.7 million Americans over age 65 are living with Alzheimer's dementia in 2023. This translates into about 1 in 9 people over age 65 having Alzheimer's dementia. 2/3 of these, so about 4.1 million, are women, and older Black Americans are about twice as likely to have Alzheimer's or other dementias as older whites. As the size of the US population, aged 65 and older, continues to grow, so too will the number and proportion of Americans with Alzheimer's or other dementias. So by 2050, the number of people aged 65 and older with Alzheimer's may grow to a projected 12.7 million, barring the development of medical breakthroughs to prevent or cure Alzheimer's disease. And all these numbers are from the Alzheimer's Society. So the figures in the UK are similarly scary and likewise going up. So recognising that dementia is a significant health and social care issue, which impacts not only on those living with dementia, but also on their families, friends and carers, the Welsh Government has committed to becoming a dementia-friendly nation. And therefore, there's an expectation, but also very much an opportunity for cultural heritage organisations to increase social inclusion by offering opportunities for older people, and especially people living with dementia, to engage in cultural activities. The National Library of Wales, National Museum Wales and the Royal Commission are thus working together through the People's Collection Wales partnership to explore how people living with dementia can benefit from digital heritage. We're all passionate about heritage and how it can enrich people's lives. And one way it can do this is through the use of our visual resources to encourage reminiscence in people living with dementia. So what is reminiscence? Reminiscence is the recall of memories and events from the past. It can be an important way of communicating and engaging with people by accessing their long-term memory. And this is particularly important for people who have short-term memory problems, a key feature of dementia. A person with dementia may not be able to hold a clear conversation about the present day, but if you go back to their childhood and early adulthood, they will probably be able to talk about things they have done. Reminiscence can also benefit the person living with dementia in many ways. So for instance, when recalling memories, they actually become the teller rather than the told, which can be incredibly empowering. It can also make people feel better about themselves, lift their mood, or simply be a fun exercise to do. We often talk about two types of reminiscence. So simple reminiscence is a discussion, often in a group, around specific themes of the past, whereas life story work looks at a particular person's life from birth to the present day. And if you're interested in reading more about reminiscence activities, I can recommend this publication by the Alzheimer's Society called Memories Are Made of This. So it can actually be argued that the People's Collection Wales website is in and of itself a memory archive. So the 3 project partners, other organisations, community groups, and members of the public contribute valuable photos, recordings, and documents that hold stories about Wales and its people. So anyone looking for reminiscence resources would do well to start their search on the People's Collection website. However, remembering the feedback we received from the healthcare professionals at our event, there is so much available, there's so much out there that it can be really difficult and time consuming to find relevant material in a short amount of time. So therefore we decided to set up a curated kind of memory archive account on PCW aimed to provide a one-stop shop for free archive materials suitable for reminiscence work. So the Memory Archive currently has 30 collections. You can see 40 items on the left here, but 30 collections. And they are divided into relevant themes and decades within living memory based on the feedback received from the healthcare professionals. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we went about that. As I said earlier, people can use the Memory Archive both for simple reminiscence, so the discussion in a group around specific themes of the past, and for life story work, which looks at a particular person's life from birth to the present day. All images in the Memory Archive can be easily downloaded and printed for use in reminiscence sessions, but all the kind of copyright is for non-commercial purposes. So we've been working on the Memory Archive for a few years now. So it has matured into kind of a package of resources. So I've already kind of mentioned the 30 collections, but we also have a learning resource. We have a specific Learn section on People's Collection website, which is for teachers and pupils in Welsh schools. But this particular resource raises dementia awareness and can be used for intergenerational reminiscence work, and is really available to anyone. And as part of that kind of learning resource, we created a series of free memory tree and memory timeline posters, which you can use with reminiscence activities. And finally, we have a list of other free dementia resources. And if anyone here on this call knows of any kind of freely available online resources, I'd be really, really pleased to hear, and we can add them to the list here. So we started the very first few collections with a focus on the Royal Commission's expertise, so the historic buildings, monuments and landscapes. And we have various collections in the travel category. So that can include railways, buses, cars, and here you see kind of our bike collection. And as you can see, I mean, they vary. This one has 33 items. Some of the collections have 130 items. And I have kind of tried on the whole to put them in kind of chronological order. Mostly we try to keep the images in the Memory Archive within living memory. But sometimes, such as here, the very first Boy on a Bicycle, 1885, sometimes the pictures are just too good not to include. So, as I said, travel category, but also a strength of the Commission is domestic interiors. We published a book around interiors, so living rooms, bathrooms. Here you can see the kitchen kind of collection. And if we have a look at the kitchen's collection kind of in more detail, this photo is the kind of thing that the Royal Commission would have in its own archive, and also on PCW. So this is a prefab kitchen from the 1950s. But the beauty of the People's Collection website is that you are allowed to reuse other people's content into your own collections. So because the Royal Commission focuses mostly on buildings and landscapes, we do not have many what you might call people pictures. So for a collection around kitchens, I actually searched the PCW website for other relevant material, and then found what I think is a really lovely image, Evelyn Potter on her spin dryer in her kitchen. And again, if you're interested in learning more about PCW and how the platform works, kind of please tune in on the 16th of January for the presentation. So at this point, when we just had a few collections, we took part in a series of workshops, again, for healthcare professionals. And this was organised by the National Library of Wales, because they were also doing a project around dementia and archive material. And the feedback from the healthcare professionals was really interesting. They said, this looks great, but I don't know what a 1950s kitchen looks like. So when I sit alongside someone, the way you've done it this way, kind of kitchens, will not give me quite what I need. So we decided to kind of do both. So alongside the thematic collections, we started to create collections by decade or within living memory. So from the 1940s to the 1980s. Here you can see the 1960s collection, which has a real mixture of items. As you can see, there's some overlap with the themed collections. So there are some interiors from that period, but we also have some other things. Got a nice chocolate eclair advertisement, but also the music that was popular in that time. Tom Jones, very, very well-known Welsh musician. So gradually the number of collections grew in response to requests, but we're always very mindful of not wanting the memory archive to grow too unwieldy, because that would defeat its core purpose of being easy and quick to use. So by now, the collections include various professions. So we have mining, farming, and also the more kind of generic kind of work collection, which has had around 7,600 views to date. It's the most popular collection. And this is a real kind of mixture of office pictures, kind of all sorts of work environments you might think of. Then we also created a collection around significant events. So that can include weddings, graduations, retirements. We focused kind of younger school life, which again has a mixture of kind of what schools might look like, what children might have been doing, the kind of performances you would do at school, the plays, the sports. So a real mixture of what school life might have looked like over the years. And finally, even something like the royal family, which is a bit of a divisive subject in Wales, but for some people it can be really important, and especially kind of those coronation events holding a lot of power. We also want to make sure that the memory archive is as diverse and inclusive as possible. So two of the kind of more recent collections are this Pride collection with images from the LGBTQ plus community, and we have a specific African and Caribbean collection. And as you can see, the collections are mostly made up of photos or images of kind of documents, stuff like that. But we also try to include some sound clips, so that can be oral history interviews, those kind of thing. And in collaboration with Adgovio Melis, we incorporated some 360-degree videos, and they were specifically created with and for people living with dementia. And these videos allow you to interact with and experience their content instead of just kind of sitting back and watching. So for the 360, I hope this wants to play. Let me go back to the beginning. This is at a beautiful lighthouse in Wales. And once I play, I'll put the cursor on the actual video and you can see how you can play around and turn around. That's the lighthouse, where you can really kind of play about as if you're there. So that's a real nice way for people who might not be able to go out very much to explore some of the nice nature places in Wales. While the Memory Archive is at heart a digital resource, one of the things that came out of our early research, as well as the pilot that the National Library of Wales did with the local hospital for their Living Memory project, is that there is still a lot of demand for hard copy materials when it comes to reminiscence. So we've worked really hard to develop the current PCW platform to allow for easy printing of individual items and to provide handy zip files of each of the Memory Archive collections so that the images can be downloaded for offline use in one go. And as I said earlier, this is all within what we call the Creative Archive license, which prohibits any commercial use. The final thing to say around kind of the hard copy element of it, the printable or downloadable free posters are a part of this too. So the memory tree posters work thematically. So those are the ones, I'll show you one, with kind of tree with the various branches, and then the timeline posters kind of works chronologically. So that is an example of what a memory tree might look like for someone who's gone onto the Memory Archive, found some images that speak to them, and you can literally kind of print them, cut them out, paste them, or do it online. We've got kind of a Word file where you can do everything but not actually print it. And the memory timeline might look something like this, where you have either specific dates of kind of, as I said, like a wedding or childhood, and kind of in that way kind of go through someone's someone's life of things that really speak to them and they remember. So to summarize, I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, so I'd like to end by just showing you this little video, which I hope will play correctly. And it's a short video we created to promote the Memory Archive, and it just hopefully sums up quite nicely what I've been presenting today. So let's see if that one's to work. Let me know if you can hear. It is just a bit of music, so if the sound doesn't play, it's okay too, but it just adds a little bit.
We can hear it.
Great, thank you.